Hey everybody, I am making this video to read through the assignment for today if you would like that support. Of course, you can read it on your own as well, but if you want to have me read it to you just to kind of help out a little bit, then watch this video. Otherwise, this is not required. I'll also kind of go through, just explain the assignment as we're reading it too. Okay? So, Zora Neale Hurston Introduction, Part 1. Part 2 will be tomorrow. Purpose of this is to learn about Zora Neale Hurston's life and understand her perspective. Okay, so anytime an author writes anything, I know you've written stuff as well. We've written stuff for class, like your personal narrative. When authors write stuff, even if it's not like directly about their life, their experiences still shape what they're writing. So like, you can't really write something that's completely not part of your experience. So even, yeah, like I said, if it's not about your life directly, what you're writing and how you're thinking and feeling is still shows up in your writing because it's from you, from your experiences. So that's what we're going to learn about before we start reading works of hers. She's written poems and short stories and books and everything. So we're going to understand her perspective and then start reading her stuff. Okay? So Zora Neale Hurston was born in 1891. She passed away in 1960. We talked about last week how the Harlem Renaissance was during like Jim Crow laws, segregation laws in the South. We learned about that last week. Basically, it's just really discriminatory laws against African American people, especially down south. So that's why people were moving out of the South. Ended up going to Harlem, the Harlem Renaissance, and a lot of northern states. Okay, so she is one of them. All right. So directions are to read each paragraph, answer the question on the following slide. This will be for today and tomorrow. And there will be a quiz on the vocabulary words that are underlined, just like there were last week. All right. So first question is to read this quote here and reflect. So what can you infer about Zora Neale Hurston based on this quote? If you forgot, infer means to understand something without it being directly said. Okay, so this might be anytime you've probably had this happen in your life where somebody says something, but you don't literally like take it for like the literal meaning. So if somebody's upset and you like ask them why they're upset and they say they're not, you might be inferring that they actually are upset, but they're saying they're not because they don't want to talk about it. Okay, so that's inferring. You're just guessing what somebody is saying or thinking or feeling or just who somebody is based on something they say, but not like exactly what they say. Okay? So the quote here is, "Sometimes I feel discriminated against, but it does not make me angry. It merely astonishes me. How can anyone deny themselves the pleasure of my company? It's beyond me." Okay, so if you have this open on your screen, go ahead and respond there. You can pause this video. I can infer blank. What are you inferring about Zora Neale Hurston based on this? All right, jump into the article. So paragraph 1. Zora Neale Hurston was the fifth of 8 children born to John and Lucy Potts Hurston. When Zora was still a small child, John Hurston packed up his family and moved them all to Eatonville, Florida, a community north of Orlando. Eatonville, founded in 1887, was the oldest incorporated black town in America. Here, Hurston grew up in a community where black people were completely self-governed, her teachers were black, the town government were all black people. Okay? So summarize that paragraph in one sentence. What's unique about Eatonville? Think about this, especially at this time where there's not as, there's a lot more white people running things, which is still happening today, of course. But yeah, so just think about what that paragraph is about. Paragraph 2. There was no one around to make her feel marginalized or to limit her dreams. Hurston's childhood in this unique environment may have shaped her later views on race, which often veered sharply from those of her black peers who had spent their childhoods navigating a white-dominant Jim Crow-era America. Hurston described Eatonville in her writings as a city of 5 lakes, 3 croquet courts, 300 brownskins, 300 good swimmers, plenty of guavas, 2 schools, and no jailhouse. So again, how is this experience of her growing up in an all African American community different than other people, that other authors of this time, African American authors, probably grew up in a place where they were discriminated against because they were one of the few African American people in their community, and racism was a huge issue. All right, so that's what this talks about. That paragraph 2 talks about how life was difficult especially in the South in the 1890s and early 1900s because of discrimination and racism. Compare and contrast the experiences of people of color then to people of color now in America. What is similar and what is different? Obviously, there aren't Jim Crow segregation laws now, but racism still shows up in different ways. So think about what's similar and what is different. All right, paragraph 3. Zora's mother was a great influence on her. She believed that all her children should receive the best education available to them. They all attended school. At night, Zora's mother gathered them together and reviewed their lessons. She taught them grammar and how to solve long division problems. All right, so summarize paragraph 3 in one sentence. Also write down Zora Neale Hurston's mother's name. All right, paragraph 4. While Zora was in school in the 5th grade, 2 women from Minnesota visited her school. They were so impressed by Zora's academic abilities, they sent her a box of books to read. This was important because Eatonville did not have a library, and no library from nearby towns would allow African Americans to issue them. These books offered Zora access to mythology and authors only white people were privileged to read. All right, summarize paragraph 4 in one sentence. All right, paragraph 5. Zora and her father John struggled in their relationship. He was prestigious in his own right, for he was the mayor of Eatonville and a moderator of the South Florida Baptist Association. John thought a girl should not be outspoken. A girl child, he said. He knew what happened to people of color who spoke up for themselves. Zora wrote that her father believed it did not do for, I'm not going to say this word, remember we talked about this, it was used at this time by white and African American people, but was acceptable back then, but I'm not going to say it now. To have too much spirit. He was always threatening to break mine or kill me in the attempt. All right. So Zora's father thought that women should not be outspoken. Do you think people still feel this way? What are your feelings towards this? Also, keep in mind that this article says that he didn't want her to be outspoken, but it also talks about how he was worried about her, the fact that she's a person of color being outspoken is different than if you're a white girl being outspoken, for example. So maybe he was just worried about her and not thinking that just women shouldn't be outspoken. But answer that in your response. Okay, everybody, I don't want this to go too long, so I'll end it here, but just hop on office hours if you have further questions or need help. All right, bye, everybody.